Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Alexandra Loves. If you just started this video as a replay, you want to go forward about 5 minutes because I am welcoming people in for about 5 minutes. Let me go ahead and share this video. Welcoming in people from my own Facebook page, welcoming people in from Wealth Moms International, welcoming people in from YouTube, wherever you're coming from. Hello, 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 hello. You're gonna go forward about just 5 minutes because let's turn this down. I am welcoming people in for about 5 minutes. All right, let's turn that echo off. Yay. Welcome in. Yes, you have time to go to the bathroom. I'm here 5 minutes early just so we can get started and this can start coming up on people's feeds. Okay. How is everybody? Let me know where you're coming from. Give me a word that describes your week. This is my new favorite question. Just one word. Stop with the phrases. One word. You can put a phrase later. Give me one word that describes your week in this, that is August of 2020. Don't worry, August is almost over. August is almost over. You can do it. I believe in you. You can do it. Hello and welcome. Yes, you have time to go to the bathroom right now. I started about 5 minutes early so that this could come up in people's feeds. I know we have a big group coming today. Let me know in the comments. Let me tell you something weird about doing Facebook videos. You don't know if people are actually there. Like sometimes people just like put likes and hearts. That's great. I love those. But also like you still can't see their faces, you know? Like it's just weird. And it's starting to get to me, this world of mostly connecting with people through virtualism. So let me know in the comments. Jim Along says, crazy. Okay. Somebody saying from Gaston, Oregon. It was productive. Good. You had a productive week. That's awesome. I did too. I had a productive week. Again, I'm here super early. So if you need to get a drink of water or use the bathroom or whatever, go do that. We'll be here for about 45 minutes, but I'm not going to start just yet. I'm going to give it a few minutes because I know I have a lot of people coming in from other places. If you're watching a preview, go in about 5 minutes. Go in about 5 minutes. Hello, Jaya. You look, oh, thank you. Thank you. Blessings, blessings. Welcome, everybody. How are you? Give me a word that describes your day. How is your day going? How does it feel? We're here to talk about white fragility. We're here to talk about it. It's happening. Popping in. Popping to look, be back. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds good. It sounds good. Hello, hello. Welcome. How are you? Where are you coming from? Stoked. Val is here. Heidi's here. Let me know a word that describes your week. Just one word. How's your week going? Oh, Gemma says she's going to the loo. Oh, Gemma's in England. That's why I forgot. I forgot how to speak English. Thanks, Gemma. Hello, welcome, Wall of Moms. Welcome from YouTube. Welcome from the Alexandra Loves page. We're going to get started in just a minute here. Now's the time to tag your friends, especially in the WAMI group, tag your friends, let them know this is starting. Had a lot of people. Oh, I was meant to tell people on that post. I was meant to tell people, I plan to tell people on that post that this is happening now. It's time. Yeah, people just have to find it and make it here. All right. So today we are here to have a casual conversation. It might feel casual. This is not like an official conversation, but we're here to have a discussion about white fragility. I was asked to do this in a group that I'm helping run these days, a group that asked me to specifically come in and bring in some understanding. And what I want to say about this first and foremost is I cannot be your only teacher. You have to go to all the trainings and all the teachings that you can find about anti-racism, all of them that you can find. Read the books, all of us will have different perspectives. Remember that Black people, we're not a monolith. We all do this differently. We all come from different angles. Someone saying hello from Washagul, Washington. Hello. It just says Facebook user. So thank you for being here. Washagul, you're awesome. It might actually be good if I just open this up in Wall of Moms. So I was asked to come into this group to bring conversations like this. These are conversations that I already tend to have. Oh, that's Kat Beatty and Jill. Hi. Okay, now I can see your names. These are conversations that I already have. I'm pretty open about my journey through race and living in the United States. I did not grow up here. And I want to clear up some confusion that I have noticed on some of the things that you might be seeing. So one of the things that you might be seeing is like, play Black people for their work. And I am absolutely a proponent of that. We should get paid for our work. As a matter of fact, so much of what I do has to do with the fact that I was doing so much work that white people wanted to, and this is my experience, white people wanted all of my work for free, all of it for free, and never wanted to pay me, and never wanted to amplify my voice, and never wanted to make connections with me. They just went for free. And when I would say, no, that's not how I do it, they get angry that I create that boundary. And so I realized that in my business, I don't need to compromise myself, but I also found out that just in business, right? If I'm expecting people to invest in me, I can't expect people to invest in me just because someone tells them to. I need to always provide something that people can get my vibe, can understand where I'm coming from, can understand that if they're going to give their resources, that it's going somewhere that's worth it. Now, we can talk about reparations and how I should be getting those resources anyway, but the truth is people act in self-interest. It's how racism got started in the first place. And so while I could sit around and wait for reparations, or I could create my business and my working around what makes sense for me and how I build my life. So,
and we are live.
For clarity's sake, you should always pay Black people for their work. You should never expect something from them. But remember that all of us, especially in the anti-racism world, we all do it very differently. And to look at one business and then another business and say, I know what they're doing and that's not right and blah, 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 that's immature. You got to know what's actually happening on the back end for you to actually know how it is that they make money. Okay, so the reason I'm able to do this for free is because this is just like what I do on my normal page anyway. I do talks like these on my normal page. I'm just happening to share it in this group because I was asked to. Okay, this is not something that I get paid for, to talk about my journey and my discoverings of white fragility. That's why I'm saying this is a casual conversation. Now, before we get started, if you feel like you are ready to work on creating anti-racism culture within yourself, if you need to work through your shame and guilt, if you need to work through the tears, if you need somebody to really tell you what's up, and you want to do that, you want to anchor anti-racism inside of you and bring it to your families. If you want to be in an environment that's non-judgment, non-shame, non-guilt, you want to work on that, that is when you come to me and you say, yeah, I want you to either come to my group or I want to work with you. You can book a session. You can go to my website. Okay. Now that that is clear, and I know there are people tracking me who are going to have a problem with it anyway. Now that is clear, may we start this conversation about white fragility. It's just going to be a conversation. I'm just going to give you a couple of gems. This conversation specifically for some of the things I see on the internet, and especially in the invited group today, which is the WAMI group. Hello, Cindy from Palmetto. Hello. Can we start this conversation? Let me know in the comments. Yeah? All right. Today we are talking about white fragility. And there are many ways. There are many ways that this can manifest for people. All right? Sometimes it's happening unconsciously, sometimes it's happening consciously. One of the things that I noticed, especially in the invited group today, because when we're talking about, look, racism is racism is divisive. Racism is an abomination of nature. So anything that is created from racism is going to be divisive. It's going to be something that hurts. Racism was created to hurt. What do you think when you dehumanize a group of people is going to happen? They're going to feel good about it? No. The seed of all of this chaos that we're experiencing, the seed of this man getting shot in the back of in his back 6 to 7 times, the seed of the seed of the fights you're seeing on the streets of the protests, the seed of 2 people coming together who have good intentions to create something awesome for anti-racism, and then all of a sudden it blows up. It's because we're dealing with poison. We're dealing with an abomination of nature. So from that abomination of nature, we got things like white supremacy, anti-Blackness, white fragility. White fragility is part of a legacy that's been passed on to white people, whether you like it or not. You might be conscious of it or not. You might be someone who has no idea what I'm talking about, and you will in a minute. Some of you are aware that you're doing it. Some of you are not. Some of you have been called. It has been called on you. It's made you real mad, right? I can't tell you for each individual experience, but what I can do is give you some of this information so you can be on your own self-exploration, and you can also know it when you see it. So first, I'm going to show you an extreme example of white fragility. I mean, extreme. I had it queued up here, and then a whole bunch of stuff happened. So just listen to this music. Oh, the music didn't queue up either. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to show you this example right now of extreme white fragility. All right. This is something that I see a lot in the invited group today, and I see all over social media, and we sort of like live it. Okay. This is Amy Cooper, white fragility textbook. Oh, there's no sound.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Yeah, there's.
Please don't come close to me. Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording. Please don't come close to me. Please take your phone off. Please don't come close to me. Please call the cops. Please call the cops. I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life. Please tell them whatever you like. Excuse me?
And Denning. I'm one of the directors of Universal.
I'm sorry, I'm in a ramble, and there's a man, African American, who's a bike rider. He's recording me, threatening me and my dog. There is an African American man in my park. He's recording me, threatening myself and my dog. I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately.
This is white tears. Now white tears is happening.
Thank you.
All right. So, all right. So for some of us, we understand that this is, in some ways, is a death threat. The fact that she called the cops is actually a death threat for Black people, because we live in a country, if you haven't noticed yet, we live in a country where Black people can be shot for anything. This is why it's so important. This is one of the reasons it's important to understand white fragility, because white fragility equals sometimes Black people dying. Do you dig? Do you see do you understand what I'm saying? Let me know. Did you see the white tears? Did you see the fragility? All that happened, if you don't know about this story, I should have given a little more preface to the story. If you don't know about this story, all this man asked was for this woman to leash her dog in a place where the dog clearly should have been, like, legally should have been leashed. All right. So guys saying understand. All right. So you have to understand in context of why white fragility is dangerous. Okay. White fragility is dangerous because historically, if a white person is feeling fragile and the Black person is still there, whatever the interaction is. In this interaction, this person made up that she was being attacked by an African American male, right? Whatever the situation is, if a white person feels uncomfortable, if they feel threatened, then historically, if they say anything to anyone, then that person will be picked up. They'll probably be lynched. Historically, they'll probably be lynched. They'll be disappeared. They'll burn the house down. They'll burn that person's house down or their business down. That's historically what happened. A person can go to the patriarchy. A white woman can go to the patriarchy and say, "Save me from this evil man." And if you look historically, you will see all sorts of videos and pamphlets about how Black people, and I'm going to read this comment that's really good in just a minute, how Black people are degenerates and threatening, and we'll take we'll take white women away, and we'll take your jobs, all right, and ruin your business. So what was created out of that was this idea that Black people are threatening. It still exists today. How it plays out is in this thing that we're calling white fragility. Not only has she put a Black man's life in danger, her own dog, has anyone taken her dog away? She's threatening her own dog's life. Yeah, that was Amy Cooper. Her dog got taken away. She lost her job and her dog got taken away. So I'm going to read this definition, which I'm pausing because I realized I should have read it before. Now, this is from Robin DiAngelo's book. Look, Robin DiAngelo has a lot of controversy around her that's very valid. Look it up. I don't necessarily support her work, but I do think that this is the best definition of white fragility that I've experienced to date. And that is, white fragility is a state in which even a minimum amount of racial stress becomes intolerable for white people, triggering a range of defensive moves. These moves can include the outward display of emotions such as anger, fear, guilt, and behavior such as argumentation, silence, and leaving the stress-inducing situation. These behaviors in turn function to resonate with white racial equilibrium. Do you understand that definition? Did you see how in that extreme example, she was just like, basically what happened for her is this. This Black man said, "Please leash your dog." She started freaking out. He said, "Whoa, I got to record this. I'm not sure what's going to happen." And so she decided to call the patriarchy, the authorities that she knows kill Black men for less than that. The authorities kill people for sleeping in their bed, kill Black people for sleeping in their bed. Because she couldn't handle the situation that he asked her a polite question of, "Please leash your dog," she went to the patriarchy, to the murderers of our system, and said, "This Black man, African-American male, is threatening me." How is him standing there asking her to leash her dog and videoing her because he doesn't know what's going to happen, threatening to her? Because she's been taught, because in our system, we've been taught that somehow Black people are threatening. So instead of saying, okay, I'll leash my dog, or I don't like you, fuck you, and walk away, she got real fragile, and then she went to the white authorities and said, you need to take care of this Black man. And then, if you hear her in the video, she starts crying. This is all how white fragility plays out, and it can result in death. You dig? You see what I'm saying? The white fragility, there was an expression of something that is not true or expressed from fear, right? The not true part depends on what you're talking about, right? So for her, she felt threatened some kind of way. If you look at the video, she's not being threatened. But for her, what's true is she's being threatened. Anybody else looking at that, I don't know that they would see this. I don't know that they would see any threat, right? So I'm not going to get into the arguments of what's true for her. But what's true about the overarching situation is that Black people die this way. That's why white fragility is so, so dangerous. That was an extreme example. That was one of the extreme examples. Let me give you a smaller example that might be a little easier to interact with, okay? Right now is Black Breastfeeding Month. One thing I've noticed, anytime that there's a Black space, a Black event, a black something first motion, and this has been happening everywhere. I've been seeing all these bits happen in the WAMI group, the invited group to this little talk today, and it's happening everywhere. Whenever somebody says something about Black Breastfeeding Month, I've seen so many comments from white women that are, why is there a Black Breastfeeding Month? I had this experience of of breastfeeding. This is my experience. I don't understand why they get to have this thing. And then when they're confronted, hey, you know, there's things you don't know here. You don't understand the history of wet nurses. You obviously don't understand the history of slavery. And also, why is it an issue for you that Black people would have a space or something that honors them? Something that is education that those communities specifically need so that they can have nourish families better, their own families better, to undo some of the trauma and the resource stealing that has happened through slavery, of which you benefit from. And invariably, these women will double down and say, what's the difference? We all have breasts, we're all women. Okay, that's the basis for a lot of white feminism. We're all women, it's all the same for us. It's not. We are different. What's playing out there is a white fragility of like, I don't understand this. Let me make it about me. Let me center myself. And then when somebody says, no, that's not okay. I don't understand. What's wrong with you? You're getting so angry. I'm going to leave the conversation. That's white fragility. And then we're stuck there dealing with their pain, with their disruption, because they couldn't handle it. That's white fragility. Again, welcome if you're just joining. We're just having an informal conversation about white fragility. Do you dig? Do you see what I'm saying? Now, whether it's you or it's not you, I'm just giving you these little examples. Somebody saying white ignorance. Yeah, we're talking about it and ignorance. I'm just giving you these little examples of how this is playing out and how this can be deathly and how this can be hurtful. And also that this is historical. This isn't something that just because white fragility, white tears are like new words. They do go far back. They're just the new words that we're using to describe these concepts. When you are practicing, if you are trying to create anti-racism, if you're on my pages and if you're in the WAMI group, hopefully you're there to create anti-racism. I know that there's some people in these groups, and I know there's some people in these pages who are there to make fun of other people and there to laugh at people, and that's their prerogative. They have to answer to their own karma on that. But you're here because you want to create anti-racist culture. And in order to do that, every single one of us has to look within and challenge those things that we don't like about ourselves, and also take responsibility into challenging the groupings around us. We have to take responsibility for things we don't necessarily want to always take responsibility for. But today I'm just here to open your eyes to different ways that white fragility plays out, and why it's dangerous and how far it goes back. So I'm just gonna show you this one thing, and you can start asking questions if you want. Let me screen share again. Now is the time to ask questions if you want to ask questions. This, I love this. This was created by Celicia Stanton, and I love it because it's so simple, and it's the 5 ways, the 5 top ways that white women center themselves in conversations about race, and it's all based on white fragility. Okay, and I'll tell you the 5 ways. Crying, we just saw that in Amy Cooper Singh's. Redirecting to your trauma, bringing up when you were a good ally, credentialing, and apologizing for white people and expressing your guilt. Okay, so for our group, for our WAMI group, what I want to bring up specifically is just a couple of these. In this post itself, you can get access to these. This is public information. All right, this is public information. You can go to this woman's website and go to the link that I provided in the thing itself, and look at these things. But this is a big one that happens all of the time in this WAMI group, and it happens on my pages. It happens everywhere, and that is credentialing. And she actually references Robin DiAngelo here as well. Again, look up all the controversy about Robin DiAngelo. There's many other people you can invest it with when you're doing your anti-racism work. Okay, this is something that Robin DiAngelo discusses in her book, White Fragility, shaped by her learnings from Black folks. Stop talking about all the qualifications you have in this area, having Black friends, living in a Black neighborhood, getting a degree in ethnic studies, working in social justice, writing a book. I don't know. I don't care how official the credential sounds. If you are white, there's not enough credentials in the world to immunize you from racism. I'll say that again. If you are white, there are not enough credentials in the world to immunize you from racism. This really builds off the last point being bringing up times when you're a good ally. Centering yourself in a way that expects a person you are speaking to validate your credential as a sufficient credit to excuse you of racism. Yet again, the conversation has become about you. Okay, so a big part of what white fragility always comes back to, I find over and over again, is centering whiteness. The way that I'm seeing it, the way society has told me to see it, which society, by the way, is built off of the white gaze. All right, gaze, G-A-Z-E, not G-A-Y-S, the white gaze. It's about me. It's about the way I think about it. It's about my feelings. All right. Okay, here's another question. What are your thoughts about making a change out of white fragility and being a white accomplice? I will talk about that in just a minute. So this is something I see a lot, on my pages, and I think one of the craziest ones is once this white woman was talking about one of the lynchings that happened in this year, 2020. I don't remember which one, and this cultural conversation had started on this woman's wall, and she came in and she said, "I'm Blacker than most Black people," and of course you can imagine the fallout of that. So for me, honestly, I've been emotional about a lot of this stuff around race, and I keep getting pulled into that. And honestly, for me, I'm just always exploring, always finding out. I cannot spend my life in the rage and anger that is very valid around race. And so I tend to ask questions so I can find out, where is this seed coming from? Because I do want to dismantle it. And if I am not looking level-headedly trying to find the seed of the poison, then I'm not going to be very effective in being able to dismantle. So I had to ask questions, and many people were attacking, of course, validly. And so I asked her, what makes you Blacker than most Black people? And her answer was a credential. I was married to a Black person. I had a half Black son, and I also work at the community center. And I got to tell you that after having, now we went back and forth for a while, all right? I went back and forth with her for a while, and some of my questions, and this is what I do with toddlers, some of my questions were, oh, so when you were 3 and you were a Black woman when you were 3 and you had this thing that happened around like your hair and your parents trying to tell you what good hair was, it's really having more white hair. Like, how did you deal with that? And she, of course, yes, she was white, Gaia. She was white. She said, I'm a white woman saying I'm Blacker than most Black people after a cultural conversation about a lynching of a Black man that just happened. And she didn't have an answer for that. And she says, well, that's not what I meant. I was like, well, that's how it's landing for me. You said you're Blacker than most Black people. You said it's because of your credentials, which is I was married to a Black person and then we had a Black kid. And so my question is, tell me about your Black story. If you're more Black than me as a Black person, tell me about your Black story. And the thing is this, is that if you believe that because you are married to someone who is Black, have kids that are biracial or Black kids, or because you work at the community center, you have the degree, that is not a credential for knowing the Black experience. You don't carry the trauma down in your life. You don't carry the legacy down. You don't walk through the world in this skin. And so though you might have extra sensitivity, it is not a credential that, as Alicia Stanton says, that immunizes you from racism. This is something I see all the time happening in these conversations of race. My best friend is Black, so no, drop it. Stop with the credentialing. Because what it does, not only is it infuriating for us, because what you're saying is, I get it, because you don't. And then we get off the subject we're talking about, and then I have to explain to you why you don't get it, right? So I'm being derailed. And this is manipulation, by the way. I'm being derailed from what we're actually talking about, because then I have to explain to you why you don't get it. But you think you do get it, right? Or clearly this person thinks they do get it, right? The other thing is, if you're approaching these conversations with your credentials, my husband is Black, all right? If you're approaching these conversations with my best friend is Black, I lived in all Black communities, then you are missing information you might need to be better in this whole experience of creating anti-racism. Because when you say that my child is Black, so I get what you're saying, everyone who is, I don't want to say woke, but everyone who understands that that's credentialing, everybody who now has to make space for you changing the subject, because now we have to educate you on how that doesn't make you understand. What you're doing is you are missing out also on information you might need that would be of help to your son or to your husband. Part of learning is understanding what you don't understand. All right, that's credentialing. I'm not going to go through all 5 of these things. I'm just going through a couple that I see a lot. I talked about redirecting your trauma. I was talking about redirecting your trauma when I talked about the Black Breastfeeding Week that's going on right now, Black Breastfeeding Month, that's going on right now. Okay, redirecting to your trauma. Trauma and mental illness are both very real and should be taken seriously. That said, conversations about racism are not the time or place to focus on the struggles you've been through in your life, nor are they the sufficient excuses for engaging in the intentional work of anti-racism. I always find these redirects ironic because racism is traumatic. Constantly dealing with white fragility is traumatic. I'm going to say that again. I always find these redirects ironic because racism is traumatic. Constantly dealing with white fragility is traumatic. By recentering the conversation, to be about you and your trauma, you are contributing to the racial trauma of the person you are speaking to. Do you understand this? Let me know in the comments if you're picking this up. Even if you're like just unplugging. I'm not going to judge you or shame you if you've never read a book on anti-racism. That's not how I work. All right? I'm not, for some of you, I know this is brand spanking new. You are just now unplugging from this white supremacism structure that we're in. Let me know how that lands for you in the comments. Guys saying, yeah, it makes sense. Yes, yes. All right. So, and I'm gonna, okay, somebody's saying 100%. Okay, good, good. Okay, I think I'm following. Good, just keep going with this work. And Catherine, click on the, for those of you who are just like, I'm just trying to get it. When I'm done with this, go back to the video and click on the link that you can go read these and save them for yourself so you can go back. All right. So when I was talking about Black breastfeeding week before, and I'm sorry, I kind of did this a little bit out of order. I got a little derailed right before I started this talk. So I'm like, my focus is like in different places, but thank you for your grace of bearing with me as we talk about this. Redirecting to your trauma. When we're talking about Black spaces, this is a really difficult thing. If somebody can actually find the article, if you've seen it, the reason it's important for Black people to have Black spaces, and put it in the comments. I'll try to find it real quick here. Why it is important for Black people to have Black spaces. I'm going to take questions for about 10 minutes. I'll find the article somewhere else. But it's important to understand. Okay. And I'll post it later. Redirecting trauma. The thing is that when you walk through this world with this skin, especially in the United States, because look, the United States is a capitalist country. That is the culture that almost all of us share, unless you're indigenous to this land. If you're indigenous to this land, your history is exempt from this. But as far as the culture that we all share, if you're participating in society, is capitalism. Why people of color need spaces without white people. Thank you for posting. Thank you. Okay. I'm hoping that translated to everywhere that this is showing. Okay. What we share is a culture of capitalism. The pillars of capitalism are racism and white supremacism. And prosperity. Prosperity is gained by enslavement, which is also racism and white supremacism. That didn't go away just because we had a Black president or because enslaved people got freed. It didn't go away. That wasn't, the times of mass lynchings were not that long ago. Jim Crow laws were not that long ago. Don't get bamboozled by the idea that this was our past and is so far away. We're talking about recent history, okay? All of that white supremacism, all of the racism and the way this society was formed, it's in our laws, it's in our education, it's in our school system, it's in how we interact with each other, it's in how we treat Black bodies. It should not, if you know about this, and I encourage you to keep knowing about it and studying it, it will not be surprising to you. Jacob Blake getting shot in the back 7 times, it shouldn't be surprising to you. It should be shocking and traumatic, but it shouldn't be surprising to you. It was a lynching. It was a lynching. It was, as far as the information I know at this time of this video, I'm not surprised at this. I'm just calling it for what it is. I'm not trying to, I want you to take the romanticism off of the idea that these are situations that just happen, or that these are like 1 in a million, or it's increasing. It's just that we can see it now. It's just that, thank goddess, we have social media and that people are recording things now. Okay? So I digress. redirecting to your trauma. One of the biggest transgressions of white fragility that I see, especially online, especially in these groups, is that walking through this world, through this white supremacist society, that's a capitalist society that is still based on white supremacism, whether you're ready to know that or not. I can't make you, but you should find out for yourself. There is a constant sort of thread of trauma and fear that can run through living a Black life. That's why we say Black Lives Matter. It's not just about saving somebody from getting shot. It's about like the whole spectrum, how we live. It's about the whole spectrum of our own mental health. It's about the whole spectrum of us feeling like we can be secure walking down the street at night. Okay? You dig? You see what I'm saying? So when you show up and we're talking about like we've made this space so that we can heal ourselves from being in this capitalistic, white supremacist, racist society, so that we can re-educate ourselves, so that we can reclaim our resources, so we can tell our stories, so we can talk about our pain, so we can organize ourselves and try to build up our communities, so that we can stop the gentrification of our neighborhoods. And you, if you are white, are showing up and saying, oh, actually, I had that pain too. This is how I had that pain. Oh, actually, I totally understand what you're saying. This thing over here is happening. It's just like what you're explaining. What you're doing is you are doing what the society does, and the very reason why those spaces exist, those Black only spaces that exist, the reason we're trying to talk about our pain, you're showing up and you're taking the focus off. You're taking the focus off, all right? And you are making it not as important by taking the focus off. And then now this is like reigniting the trauma that started it in the first place. Then when we say, hey, that's not what we're talking about you often get offended. I see this play out over and over again. This terrible thing, and sometimes it's straight up, it's a white person who doesn't want to talk about, especially for Black Breastfeeding Month, doesn't want to understand, doesn't want to talk about the fact that why there's a Black Breastfeeding Week is because Black mothers were not allowed to be mothers. They fed your ancestors. And we're not allowed to feed their descendants. Their descendants would die. Their descendants would grow up frail and then get killed because they couldn't be used as slaves, because they couldn't breastfeed them. And how that ended up manifesting was fears and weird superstitions about Black people's breastfeeding their own babies, affecting infant mortality rates, affecting our ability to be nourished to grow, putting us into survival mode. We're talking about the trauma of a legacy of power that has been handed to you. So when you show up in a play in that specific example of Black Breastfeeding Month, or a space that is Black only, or a Black person talking about their pain, and you make it about you, it's re-traumatizing. This is why you're hearing people say, shut the fuck up. And that's why it's confusing why when you hear somebody saying, white people, this is your problem, fix it, because you are sitting in the power position. Even if you don't feel like you have power, you are sitting in a power position because white people are the gateholders to our industries, to our resources, to how we view society. This is a white supremacist society. They're saying it's your problem to fix because you're in those power positions, but we're also saying shut up when we're talking about our working through it. Do you dig? Do you see what I'm saying? Now, I would love to go on and on and on with this. And I'm not going to. I'm at a place where I'm done talking about this. But I will answer questions for about 10 minutes. So now is the time. Let me know. How is this landing for you? What did you just learn? What may you be recognizing within yourself or someone else who operates in this way? What's going on out there? I'm hearing indeed double trauma. That's right. Yes. And again, I will in the post of this comment, I put where you can look up these plaques that this woman did, Celicia Stanton. They're so good. I mean, it's just so simple. And I encourage you to look up these things, for yourself and see it. Look these things up for yourself and research in different ways, because look, everyone has a different take on this. No group of people is a monolith. No, I tend to look at these things from the spiritual perspective of my life. Someone else might have a far more intellectual way of looking at it, have completely different training or experience than I would. It's important to look at all the different ways. Can you give me an example? Can you give us an example of a scenario disrupting a racist conversation? Yeah. Say, I'm not cool with that. I'm not cool with what you just said. I'm just not cool with what you just said. Okay? As simple as that. Look, let me tell you something. When you start to disrupt racist conversations, and by the way, as an ally, because one of the questions over here was, how can a white person be an ally? How can a person work through their white fragility and be an ally or an accomplice? I'll tell you straight up, you can go to all the trainings and read all the books, but until you start internalizing it in your spirit, it's going to be very hard to move to be a consistent ally and then to become anti-racist. To create an anti-racist culture, you have to commit to creating anti-racist culture for life. This beast of racism, white supremacy has been going on for centuries. It will never be enough in your lifetime. You have to inject it into community. You have to inject it to politics. You have to inject it to your own family. So how can you disrupt? You can say, I'm not cool with that. And I'm going to tell you right now, when you start to disrupt this grand, nasty, brilliant system, and by brilliant, I don't mean good. I mean, it was created brilliantly. It was created and now we're in this situation now. All right. It was nasty brilliant. That's what I'm saying. All right. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. All right. So to every time you show up and you're going to disrupt a conversation, every time you're going to disrupt this system, people are going to attack you. People who are going to attack you who agree with you because they don't understand what you're doing. People are going to attack you who are completely against you. You're going to hear the nastiest things. You could lose your job doing that. I'll be honest. You could lose your job. Find a different way to do it. All right. Somebody's asking, showing up at a Black Student Union meeting in college, for example, is probably not supportive because I'm intruding. It all depends on how you do it. If you show up and remember that you are a guest and you have no idea first of all, are you allowed to go there as a white person? That's the first thing. That is the first thing. Are you supposed to go there? Are you allowed to walk into that room as a white person? Okay. Once you've done that, be there to learn and listen. Be there to learn and listen. It is not your space. You are a legacy holder of what created pain in that space. Doesn't mean that you specifically created it. It just means you're a legacy holder of that. Okay? So first find out, are white people allowed to go? Then, if you go, ask, what is the proper way for me to show up in that space? What are the standards and boundaries for me? Don't expect it. They might say this. These are the things. They also might not tell you. Don't get mad. Don't expect them to tell you. You're just asking because you want to respect them. Okay? But don't ever expect any Black person to ever, or any person of color, to ever explain things to you. Again, go to the beginning of my video if you want to know why I spend time on explaining things to people, okay? If you go, this is what I would suggest. You sit and you be very, very quiet. And you listen and you learn and you say nothing. The only thing that you really need to say is thank you after everyone else is talking at the very end of the meeting. Thank you. Don't offer reflection unless they specifically ask you for a reflection. That's it. Listen, learn, go home, reflect. You know what you can do? You can go to your other white friends if you are white. Go to your other white friends and say, this is what I learned. This is what I did. This is what I learned. That is where you should start telling your story, within other white communities, within your family. Yeah? Does that make sense? Who asked that? Catherine, who asked that? Okay. I saw that there was one other question. Please excuse me. I got so derailed right before I came here. How can a white person in this group best? How can a white person in this group, this is from the WAMI group, best move forward and support you and all your leadership for WAMI? Oh, that's so sweet. Look, I came to WAMI because someone asked me to come and bring my work into WAMI, and also because it's aligned with that leg of the work I'm doing in this world. I'm a spiritual teacher. I have a leg of this work, of the work that I do, that's creating anti-racist, getting people to commit for life to anti-racist culture. And I believe that the way that people can do that is by anchoring it into their spirit. It's deep, personal, individual identity work for every single person. All those documentaries, all those books, all the learning, once you anchor it into your spirit, once you do that work of the dark places within you and the scared places and guilt places and shame-ridden places within you, then you will be able to be a full-on accomplice. Then you'll be able to really dismantle system. Then you'll be able to inject this into your family communities in a way that is very, very effective. And so a lot of people are coming to that is my way. That is not the way for everybody. That is my way. That is not the way for everybody. That's why I say go to all the teachers, join all the groups, find all your ways to do this, okay? So what I see a lot of in the WAMI group, and how you can help specifically with leadership in the WAMI group is do your very best, one, to not get involved in fights. We don't have time to moderate all the fights. But also bring posts and manage the comments on your post that help people understand what's going on, rather than posting with no context, right? So when you post, if it's about a killing, post how it affects you and what your discovery is, and be open to the fact that somebody might say, no, actually, you're wrong about this, blah, blah, blah. And they might be pointing something out about you. Instead of coming with defensiveness, just be like, oh, okay, I'll consider that. Right? So come with an open heart and come with the fact that you can make mistakes, and bring context to the post that you're doing. That's how you can help us quite a bit in the WAMI group. As far as like me specifically supporting my leadership, look, you all know me. You all know what I do. Come over to my Alexandra Loves page and tag people in videos, share videos. That's how you can help me specifically. But really, if what you're talking about is the leadership within the WAMI group, it's just be responsible in how you act in the page, and speak to each other like you would speak to each other face to face. Speak to each other in that way, just like you would face to face. I think that's a lot of problem with social media, is we turn into avatars of ourselves and we forget that we're talking to people, okay? Okay. Amanda's one of our moderators. And I love what she's saying. Begin now. Start by reading, exploring what you've accepted as normal. Yeah, we got to start ditching. This is really smart. We got to start ditching what we've accepted as normal. We have to understand that this is a white supremacist country. Our education is white supremacism. Our police, our structures, our police, our legislation, it's all white supremacist. Just because we're participating in it doesn't mean we are white supremacists in the sense that I'm talking about. It doesn't mean that you wake up every morning and put on a hood. I certainly don't. But white supremacism is like a disease. It's a condition that we all have. It just manifests differently. Me as a Black woman, people think I'm a Black woman, and you as a person of color, who, or you know, however you identify, or somebody who is white, it manifests differently. But we all have the disease of white supremacism. Look at I can't even get words out. I'm a counselor, Cherry, or maybe Sherry. I'm a counselor for substance use. It would be beneficial. Would it be beneficial to have groups for POC specifically? I would think it would be harmful to have a white counselor leading the group. Suggestions and thoughts. You know where I would ask that question? First of all, yes, because you should have POC groups specifically, but but maybe this is something that you go to your colleague who's a POC person and talk to them about how to create that with them at the lead. Because you know, I don't know a lot about the substance abuse world. I do know that a sense of community is a really good place for people to sort of move on from that, and being able to be who they are and understand the systems that they're in. But that is it. Like, that's as far as I really know very much about it. You know a lot more, but really creating the people of color groups should be left to the people of color, because they already have an innate, that's not the word, inherent understanding, because they've walked the walk. If you haven't, there's a whole spectrum of things that you cannot speak to if you are a white counselor. There's a whole things that you can't speak to because you don't know. And so, but if you think it's something that you want to create, it might be the kind of thing where you get the information together and the research together, and you present it to the people who run the hospital, or run the community center where you work, so that you know it's happening and you are a part of creating that. And if you have a friend counselor that you can know, like, and trust and have these conversations with, it's possible that you can find an approach to say, you know, I want to do you think this is important? Can we work on this together? And what's the best way to work this together? And they should be in the lead always. So that is what I would say for that. There should be person of color and Black spaces in every single industry, because every single industry was built in a capitalistic country that is a white supremacist and racist country. We need support everywhere. This isn't going to disappear in a few months or at the end of 2020. We all have a lot of work to do. All of our systems need to change. That was a great question. Thank you, Sherry. Any last questions before I go? Thank you for being with me. Thank you for having the grace as I stumble through this little talk today. Last thing, I want to say thank you for those resources, Amanda. Thank you. I put a couple of resources as well for all of you in the post this itself. And again, all of you, my friends, remember that Black people are not a monolith, and we all do things differently. And Sherry says, thank you. Thank you, Sherry. We all do things a little differently. And it's important that we all interact with each other in a way that we see a person for who they are, and that we don't need to bring our trauma and our assumptions and our attacks when we're in this time of great chaos. And when people are trying to work through their fragility and when people are trying to work through their trauma, we don't need to be attacking each other. And we also need to keep ourselves in check about the legacies that have been handed to us, of the power positions that we're in. I think that's all the points I wanted to make. Thank you for your grace. And last thing, of course, if you want to do this work further, if you want to, that this is the work that I do, by all means, come to my website, alexandraloves.com. I will have no shame in letting you know that this is the work that I do. And yes, I get paid to do this work. No judgment, no guilt, no shame. I don't work that way. It never works for me. I don't want to ignite that in other people. Thank you for being